Hello, this is Robert Mason again from CAD Concepts with another video. Today we're going to be working with the Caxa Draft or the IronCAD Draft program. A lot more people that I'm selling to are using the IronCAD Draft, so I wanted to start getting people used to using Paperspace. I've taught a lot of my AutoCAD users how to use Paperspace, so now I want some of my IronCAD users to also use the Paperspace in their IronCAD Draft program. So here we're going to have a part today, and it's a basic part, and we're going to bring that over to a drawing that I already have set up. And what I did here was I have multiple views of that part inserted into my drawing at random places. They don't really need to be any particular place, but close enough where you can see them on one screen, but far enough away from each other that they're not going to interfere when you put them into a window in the Paperspace area. To show you how I did that, I'll insert one more. Again, you go to your 3D interface tab, select standard view. In this case, I'm going to select the top view, and I'm going to go to my options menu, make sure my center lines are turned on because I want them to come over. Don't need to have my hidden lines brought over, so I'll say do not export those. And you want to make sure that your projected units are set to the units of your model. In this case, that was inches, and in this case, it's going to be inches, and then so we're going to set that up. And go back to my view to make sure everything is still good here. Hit OK, and now I'm bringing in another part, and there it is, and I've got my center lines. So I may have multiple different views of the part, and I'll show you how to do some detailed views without using the standard detailed view tool. So now I've got all of the views that I want to have in my drawings, or drawings as the case may be. And you'll see down at the bottom here, I have multiple different tabs, layout tabs. What you'll, if you open up your draft drawing and you don't find any of these tabs at the bottom, just do a right click on your model and then pick the insert, and then you'll get your first layout. Right click on it, and you can rename it into anything you want. So there would be another layout. If you don't want the layout, you do a right click on it and you can delete it, and you can delete your layout. Okay, so we get back to our model. We have all our different views already inserted. You know how to do that, or I assume you know how to do that. If not, we'll have to cover that into a different video. And so I go to my D-size drawing, and here I've inserted a border into my layout, and it's a D-size sheet of paper. And just to show you that it is, let me add a dimension on here to give you an idea as to what we're up to. So that's 2 feet 8 inches by 1 foot 9 inches. So that's an ANSI D-size sheet of paper. Now, on that sheet of paper, I want multiple views of those models, but I want them at different scales. That'd be something that it's not so bad in the Caxa Draft, because they give you some tools that AutoCAD didn't give us, but I want to show you how to do it in the model space. So here I come up under View, pick Viewports, select, I want a single. You can have as many as you want here, 4 views. I want to do a single at a time, so I select, create a window. So there are my views, and this is a window, but it looks back into your model space. Hit my space bar again to get back into the last command. Put another view down, space bar. Put another view down, space bar, and put one more view down. So I can have as many views as I want, that without causing too much confusion on a drawing that as you need. So now what I want to do is come up to this top left viewport. I want to double click inside the viewport, and you'll notice that the viewport gets highlighted a little bit brighter. So now I can pan around the model space and bring the view that I want in that viewport into play. Then I double click outside the viewport. One of the tricks I've learned is, as you're scaling these viewports, more often than not, the drawings that are behind it will go off screen, or at least out of your viewport view. Then you have to go pan, 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 and you're spending a few minutes trying to find them. What I've found works best is if you get the view, don't worry about the scale at the moment. Get the part that you want to put in that view into the view where you can see it, and just add a dimension to it. But make sure you're not in the viewport, that the viewport is not active when you do the dimension, so that it's a Paperspace dimension. So now when I click on the outside of the view, you'll see over here where it says standard scale. It's a custom scale. What that means is it's an arbitrary scale. So I click on this, and here I want to make that a 1:2 scale. But again, as I mentioned, it's off the screen someplace, and that dimension helps me find it because the dimension moves with the part. So if you move the part on the paper, the dimension goes with it. So now what I do is I double click inside the viewport, turn my pan feature on. I get the little hand, drag the hand over to where the dimension is, left mouse click, and drag it back into the viewport. Escape a few times, click, and the dimension jumps with it. But now, if we look at that viewport is a 1:2 scale viewport. That'll take care of that one. So now I come over here, double click inside, and in this particular view, I want the same type view, but this one has the hidden lines on it. So I get that close to where I want it. Double click outside, go to my dimension, add a dimension on it, escape to get a dimension command, right click, and then here again I might want this to be, in this case I want to make it 1:2 as well, and then off it goes, so it's over there. Double click inside, the P for pan, hit enter, gets me my little hand, bring my hand up here, left mouse, drag it back down into my view, escape, click outside the viewport, and so now I've got this view set up as a 1:2 scale. Dimensions can always be erased, and you can add more dimensions. I just use them to position the parts. Now here I want to add this particular view, and in this view here I want to put dimension on it. Oh, you gotta be careful because you gotta be outside in Paperspace when you put this dimension. Okay. Now this view, I want to make this a 1:1 view. So I go to my custom scale, make this 1:1. Now I set the viewport, escape, and then go find, there it is there. So now I double click inside, go to my pan, bring the pan and bring it up into my view. Escape, double click out, and there I am. Now the viewport is obviously not big enough. So I click on the viewport and I just stretch the viewport to make it a little bit bigger. And now let's do something similar here, but here I want to bring in the same view, but this time with the center lines, and double click outside, add a dimension, and escape to get out of the dimension command, and click on the view, and then this time I want to make it 1:3 view. And where is it? There it is down there. Double click inside the view to make it active, hit my pan, get my hand, bring it down, and there is my view there. Escape, double click outside. So now I've got 4 different views. 2 of them have the same scale, 2 of them have different scales. So basically there's 3 different scales on the same drawing. And if you wanted, you can bring these and make this smaller. Now, if you notice when I click on this, it's set on layer 0. I can move that and make it a viewport layer. So now, if I click on it, it tells me it's on the viewport layer. So let me move them all to the viewport layer. So highlight them all, come up under my window, click viewport. So now I know that each one of these is of the views, the viewports, if you will, are on a layer called viewports. And you'll notice that the little printer icon here has an X through it. That means that the viewport layer is not going to plot, so that when you go to plot these, you won't see this border around the view. And the way that's done is if you click on this icon here, which is your layer manager icon, you can come over here and you'll see that the layer viewport has an X through it. So if you click on it, you can put the X, and here's where you can actually change all your layers. Hopefully you'll understand this from working with it. But if you don't, we'll cover that in another video. That's not the purpose of this video. But I do want to show you that anything that you put on the viewport layer will not plot. And you just do that by clicking on the printer, and that turns that off. Now, one of the other nice things about working with Paperspace is if you want text to be a ½ inch high, you make it a ½ inch high. You don't have to worry about the scale factor of your text. One of the examples I use when I teach the AutoCAD and IronCAD and other programs that are using plot scales. If, for instance, you want a piece of text to plot at 1 inch high when you plot it out. If you're in your drawing, if you're working in model space, in your drawing, that piece of text needs to be much bigger, obviously, so you can see it. It can't be a ½ inch high in your drawing if the drawing that you're working on happens to be 20 feet or 30 feet or 50 feet. You would never see the piece of text. So what you'll do is you'll increase that scale factor. And in this case, if you're working with a 1/4 scale, the text in model space will be 48 times larger than the printed piece of text. So if you want a piece of text to be 1 inch tall when it's plotted or printed, it needs to be 48 inches tall when you're in model space so you can see it at a 1/4 scale. If it was an 1/8 scale, it would be 96 times. There are 96 eighths in a foot. There are 48 quarters in a foot. And that's how that works. But if you're working strictly in Paperspace, the size of the text you want is the size of the text you specify. And that saves a lot of calculations. And then what's also good is you can have different size papers with the views, with your part views going to different sizes, different size papers. And all of these viewports are on the viewport layer. And I know that because it's a cyan color. That's the color of my viewport layer. And then you could put whatever scale you happen to want for that particular drawing below it in whatever text you want. And you can, and in this case, I have a template that already has an A size, a B size, a C size, and 3D size drawings already set up and ready to go, so that whenever I come into my model space, which would be empty, I would insert all of my views into the model space and then place them in the drawings where I want them to be by just scrolling around. And you do have to make sure that you're outside of the window when you go into another window. Now this particular window, let's see here, there we go. Now, what's also important is after you get this, let's go back to our original here. After you get these set up to your scale that you want, you click on the view, and you'll notice over here on the left side, it says display locked no. If you click on that, you'll get a little window that'll pop up, and you can switch that to yes. So now this display is locked. Let me do the same with the others. Display, yes, locked. Display, Yes. Now, in fact, I'm going to unlock one of them. I'm going to show you why you're going to lock it. All right, so now if I happen to be double clicked inside this view and I use my scroll on my mouse, nothing happens. Right now I'm moving the mouse and nothing is happening. Double click out, double click in. Again, use my mouse, nothing is happening. Double click out, double click in, use my mouse, and there it goes. I lost my scale factor by using the wheel mouse. So that's the reason you would lock the viewport, is so that you don't inadvertently screw up your scale. So then double click, make sure I didn't mess that up. Yes, that's still locked. So that's why you would lock a viewport, so that if you happen to be in it and inadvertently use your mouse, because it's real easy to do, you won't mess up your scale. And then at this point you would come in here and just one other thing I wanted to show you. If you wanted to do a detailed view, let's just get rid of this here. Now let's just come over here. Go to our C-size drawing. Here, for instance, I've got the part, and I only want to detail one of the holes. So what I could do is you could come over here into model space, and you could do a detailed view, and you'd highlight the detailed view here. You tell it you want to put make that the detailed view, but we're not working in model space, so I'm going to erase that. Come over here to my C-size drawing, double click inside the window, and then zoom in only to that corner. Double click outside, and now I can come in and I can put my dimensions and do whatever detail work I need to do on that particular area of the part. And I can do the same thing by clicking in here. Double click in here. Maybe I want to just detail that side, and double click out and just make my window bigger. But again, if you want to move this, if it's not in the right place, just use the move command, and then you can move that anywhere you want. And then here again, you can put your dimensions. Let's move that over here. And then put another dimension, put a linear dimension here. And let's see if we can put another dimension. Another dimension there. So it's very easy to make a detailed view from a view that you already have that's in your model space. And then again, if you do have to move these, the dimensions move with it. So it's very handy to work in model space when you're putting your views in, and then when you want to do your plotting, you come over to the Paperspace and you set up your different drawings. And now when you save this file, all of these layouts are going to be saved with it. And when you want to replot something, you can come back in, come up to your C-size sheet and replot it without having to set anything up, and without having to make multiple sheets in model space with all the different views and scaling the views. It's just a lot easier to work with. And let me see if I can need to show you anything else. All right, so we did talk about how to lock the viewport. So we can lock that viewport there, yes. Right now it's at a custom scale because I didn't set the scale on that. And then when you come into your layers, One of the other things that you can do is, if this viewport is active and you come into your layer manager, you can freeze a particular layer in that viewport. Now, let me show you how that might work. Let me go back to my model space and let me come in here and let me go to just some green. Let me put some lines here. Common. So if I had some lines, so whatever, maybe there was some other part that happened to be just whatever happened to be there. If I now come back to my, let's see, I'm not even sure where I put that. Let's see here. All right, so that's on that view. All right, so let me come over here and put some red lines. Let me turn that. I want to make it red so we can see it better. All right, so now it's red, and I'm going to make some lines. So maybe there is some other information here. You know, whatever that might be. The important thing here is what I want to show you is, now if I come over here, I can see that in this particular view. However, I don't want this particular view to show that red line. So I come in here and I make my view active, come back up to my layer manager, and that was the sheet curves. So I'm going to make that current. So I come back to my sheet curves and I tell it in the freeze in current viewport. So I tell it I want that frozen in the viewport that I had current. So now you'll see that the red is disappeared, but yet it's still there in my model space. So this allows you to have pieces of information that might be around your view that you don't want to see in some other view, and rather than having to make multiple pieces of it in model space like we used to do with the AutoCAD, you can turn off a particular layer in a viewport. And that's called freezing a layer in the active viewport. But what's important is you need to make sure that the viewport is active. And the viewport is active when you double click inside it and the viewport border is highlighted. Then it's active. So then if you go into your layer manager and you tell it freeze in current viewport, that'll work. And there are a lot of other things here we could talk about, but I'm assuming you know some of these, and if you don't, we'll cover them in different videos. But I just wanted to cover how to start to work in Paperspace and not to be afraid of it. It's a very, very powerful tool, and it's something that I think you'll after you set up your templates with the different drawings already inside the template, it'll save you time when you have to start a new drawing. All you'll have to do then is to come into model space, drop the views you want, go into your Paperspace, double click inside the views. You can even make the views part of your template, so they're there for you when you begin the new drawing. And then you'll double click in each of the view, scroll around to find the part you want to view. Double click outside, and now you've got a part in a view. It's just that simple. And again, all of these viewports can be different scale factors, and that's something difficult to do if you're working only in model space. I hope that helps today. A lot of you guys are getting more involved in the Caxa draft, and I wanted to start to show you how to use it more efficiently, and especially the Paperspace module of it. A lot of my AutoCAD users, most of them have switched. There are still some stragglers after all these years, and I'm trying to get them to use the model space and to show them how efficient it can be and how it can help with their drawing setup. Anyway, have a great day. See you in the next video.